Alright. We're down to the last round of random stuff. Also, for some reason, I completely forgot to put Technoroid Overmind on the list, which is apparently some kind of Dogakobo idol show. I have to put it on the list just to try it. But in any case, we're down to 6 randos now. Let's see what we roll first. 1. The Eminence in Shadow. Okay, this is a big ol' edgy boy, I think. Let's see if it's good or not. Oh my god, I want to bully every single fucking character in this show. I want to take the main character and just give him a fucking swirly. I hate him so much. This show is so fucking edgy and bad. It's awful. Why does this have an 8.3 on my anime list? This is fucking atrocious. I hate it. It's so edgy. I'm cutting myself on the edge, and not in a fun way. There's nothing fun about the edginess of the show. Like, I want to stuff the main character in a locker. He fucking sucks. We need to bring back bullying specifically because of this main character. I can't fucking stand him. He's already, like, overpowered in real life. And then it becomes an isekai, so based on the preview of that world, we can assume he becomes even more overpowered. And I'm just not fucking having that. Absolutely not. Sure. What? Yeah. Fuck. Let's make him even more overpowered. Yeah, fine. That's cool. Whatever. Fuck you. And also, this show looks weird. Like, it looks polished, but awkward. There will be shots that look impressive, but they feel off. Like, there are so many fisheye lens shots in this for no reason, and it just makes the shot look weird and uncanny. And there will be, like, Dutch angles completely out of nowhere that don't fucking do anything. And the character designs, though, sometimes they look polished and clean, but every once in a while there will be some kind of feature that's there. It's not off model, it's what the model is, but the model is not good. The model has something wrong with it. It feels off and weird. I can't fucking stand this show. Oh my god, get it out of my face. You know, I was hoping Majirevo would be the last isekai of the season, but apparently not. Fuck this show. Let's move on. We got 5 randos left. Let's see what we roll next. It is 4. Junji Ito Maniac. Okay. Supposedly this was the actually good Junji Ito series, as opposed to that one from, like, what was it, 2 years ago? Let's find out if that's true. No, that's a solid negatory on the is this one scary. This one, I would say this one is just as bad as the previous Junji Ito series. This was not good. I got through 6 minutes of the first episode and was both utterly bored and totally disappointed in the visuals. There is no visual style to this whatsoever, other than the fact that they are based on Junji Ito character designs. That's all there is. There's nothing creepy. There's nothing scary. It's poop. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of Junji Ito in the first place. I liked Uzumaki, and I thought, what was it? Dissolving Classroom was fine. But outside of that, I wasn't a huge fan of some of his other stuff. But I can at least acknowledge that what he draws is creepy. There is an unsettling nature to what he draws. And the way that he the way that he draws, I think, is what's the word that I'm looking for? It is fundamentally incapable of being translated to the animated medium. I could see this doing very well in live action, but not in animation. I guess we'll see how that Adult Swim Uzumaki adaptation goes, but I'm not confident.
Alright, Junji Ito off the list. Down to 4 randoms. Next one is 2. Kaina of the Great Snow Sea. This is some kind of fantasy series, I think. I've heard no one talk about it. Let's figure out what it is.
So I booted up the episode for this, and immediately I saw the Polygon's Pictures logo, and I'm like, haha, I'm not making it far in this show. And oh boy, I did not. I made it about halfway through the first episode, I think. Now, let's be honest here. Polygon Pictures sucks. They just suck. They make bad anime. They are bad at making CG anime. Every other studio that does CG anime, Graphinica, Sanzigen, Orange, all of them are infinitely better at making full CG anime than Polygon Pictures is. For the record, this is the studio that they started making their big anime like debut was with stuff like Knights of Sidonia and Ajin, which I thought looked like shit. And they started getting better for a while. Like Drifting Dragons was a little bit better, but the script was just kind of boring. A Stab Life is probably their best looking show, but the script really fell off in the second half. And this isn't as good looking as either of those shows. Now, the background art, great. This is a really cool looking world, this canopy system. But this first episode is investing everything in world building and nothing in characterization. Do not give a shit about any of the characters in this at all. I do not find any of them interesting whatsoever. But anyway, like, the background art is fine. The world building is interesting. But the actual animation, not very good. Especially when we get to, like, the snow chase scene. And also, like, I got to the OP, and I saw some shots, and I'm like, hey, you can't rip off Nausicaa in front of me. And then it just continued to rip off Nausicaa more and more and more as time went on, until eventually a bunch of guys in armor that looked like bugs, the same way that the armor looked in Nausicaa, were chasing a princess. Nope. I'm bouncing out there. Let's move on.
Okay, Kaina is off the list. I would rewatch Nausicaa after this, but I actually had watched it fairly recently. It's still good, by the way. Anyway, 3 shows left. Let's see what's next. 3. Okay, Digimon time. Digimon Ghost Game. I'm either going to be in this for a real long time or not at all, because I think this is like 60 episodes. So let's give it a shot.
Alright, I just finished all of Digimon Ghost Game. It took just like 2 weeks on the dot. It took me 2 weeks to get through all 67 episodes, but I did it. And it was worth it. It was worth it. This was a real fun Digimon show. Now, I know I'm kind of known for like being the Pokemon guy, obviously for all of you who know me, but I'm not like Digimon's kind of in there too for me. Like it's not like my fascination, but I do like Digimon. Like I grew up with it at the same time as Pokemon. It's just that Pokemon tended to have more legs under it more of the time. Uh, what have I seen so far? I've seen the original series, like Adventure Zero One. I've seen parts of Zero Two. Did not like that. uh, I've seen all of Try. I've seen all of App Monsters. I've seen the two Taguchi films. I've seen the Digimon movie, and I've seen like a third of Digimon 2020. So I've seen quite a bit of Digimon, and now I've seen all of Ghost Game. And this, like, so I'm not like a super big Digimon expert, but I do know like a good chunk about it. And what stood out to me about this one is that it is probably the darkest entry I've seen. It might be the darkest entry, period. I haven't seen Tamers, so I don't know how people would rank it against Tamers. I mean, that's a fucking Chiaki J. Kanaka series, so who knows. But what stood out to me with Ghost Game is that this is attempting to be a horror anime. Like, it is just a straight up horror anthology series with Digimon in it. And on that front, I'd say it is successful more often than it is not. Not by a huge margin, but like enough for me to say that, yeah, it was definitely worth like tuning in for all of the episodes, because some of the horror is pretty good. Now again, this is a kids show, so there's not like blood and shit everywhere, but I was surprised to when this show started having a kill count. Like, some humans just die in this show, and they stay dead. It is wild. Like, some dude got his brain eaten out by a spider lady. Wild shit. I forget, I think it was episode 12, I think. So that's about as, like, that's roughly about as dark as it goes. Like, but there are some other episodes that are just, like, straight up, graphic as a kid's show can get. Like, episode 43, that's the one with the eyes, had a ton of body horror in it. Like, just these eyes sprouting all over people's bodies and then, like, peeling off. It was just shockingly graphic, and the color design for that episode was really solid. Episode 38 is just straight up as close to torture porn as a kid's show can get. It was intense. Like, so I like that it just kind of went for it. This show was like, okay, we're going to do horror themed stuff, and we're going to, like, stick to that. And it did for the most part. Now, not all the episodes are good. Again, it's a 67 episode anthology series, basically. Or Monster of the Week series, I guess, would be the more accurate description. So, some of them are kind of lame. There was one off the top of my head that I've already forgotten what it's about. The bad ones, I'm already forgetting what the bad ones are about. But the good ones are good. Like episode 43 with the eyes, episode 48 with the mushroom stuff, episode 33 where one of the characters is basically in the realm between life and death and is being hunted down by this weird masked Digimon with this like high-pitched laugh. Super creepy. And that's another thing that really helped with the series is like the good episodes actually are like creepy. Like, the way things are shot, the color design, how much information it conveys to you. This is really good horror for kids. Like, it's really good at that. And the sound design really helps with that too. Like, there is some creepy ass sound design in this show. It is so, like, just fun to listen to a lot of the time. Just listen to, like, get immersed in the atmosphere of it all. Like, this show can have like a slightly terrifying atmosphere sometimes, and that was kind of impressive to me. What else was I gonna say? Another thing, like, the different, like, ways that stuff is solved sometimes is really interesting too. Like, a lot of times it just ends with them, like, beating the shit out of people, Digimon, Digivolving, and all that shit. But a lot of other times, it's just like they have to do the one thing that will satisfy the Digimon that is causing the problem, because otherwise they would just not be able to defeat it. Like, fairly early on this happens, I think. It's like in like the first 5 or 8 episodes or something, where like some kind of dragon god is just like marching towards town and just destroying shit because one of the main characters put up like some kind of security net around like the digital systems and whatever. And so he had to they couldn't stop the Digimon. All they could do was take down this, like, try as fast as they could to take down that security net before he showed up and killed everyone. And there are like a lot of episodes like that where it was just like, this monster is totally outside of your control. There is no power of friend shifting this thing. You have to just hope that someone else fixes the problem, or you find like the one key thing that will like fix it, that you can fix it on your own without fighting your way through it. So that definitely kept me on my toes more often than not, because I'm not used to that in a Digimon series, I guess. I'm used to just like everyone just beating the crap out of everybody constantly. But I also do like, this is like, it's not attempting to where was I going to go with that thought? It's still very much trying to be a Digimon series as well. Like, it is very firmly couching itself in the like AU canon of the Digimon world. We get a bunch of old faces, a bunch of new faces. It's just, if you like Digimon, I have no reason to believe that you would not like this show, especially if you want it to lean into more of the like darker elements that Digimon's always kind of hinted at, but never really gotten around to, except in like the more adult-oriented ones like Tri and Last Evolution and stuff like that, and Zero to the Beginning. Oh jeez, you can go listen to my review of that. But, well, slight spoilers for Zero to the Beginning. That's probably the most graphic I've ever seen a Digimon entry get, with that fucking, I forget what the name of the Digimon in that is, but when he just fucking melts into a pool of slop after his, like, partner stabs his eye out or whatever the hell happened with that. So it doesn't get, Ghost Game doesn't get that graphic, but it's still up there. Like, there's some body horror in this. There's some, like, creepy shit happening. Unfortunately, the ending is kind of, like, well, actually, yeah, the ending's, like, fine. It definitely saves itself in the back half of the final episode by really bringing forward the key thematic elements of everything, of, like, coexistence and everything. Like, the last, like, 10 episodes of this show, it's basically like, oh, this is like a vague allegory for a refugee crisis, is basically what happens. And so, knowing what I know about Japan and immigrants, I was concerned. But this was Toei, and Toei made Star Twinkle Precure, which had a really great like pro immigration narrative in it, and I do like how this show ended as well, with its stance of like there's a chance at the end where it's like we need to separate these two worlds and that we can't coexist together yet, but then our heroes are like, no, cat's out of the bag already. We're going to work through this together. We are going to get through this together. There are some elements where the allegory doesn't work, but I don't think it's attempting to be like a super deep allegory for a refugee experience or like a climate crisis experience, which is also in there at the very end. But on the broad strokes of it, I think saved it. Even though like the last like 3 episodes were basically just like a punch up kind of show. It kind of just ditched all of the horror elements in favor of the split personality of Gamamon and Gulusman, or Gulus Gamamon, like fighting for control over each other. And to be fair, the action was really good in certain parts. Like the very last fight between Regulusman and Siriusman was really good. Like the part where Siriusman basically just becomes Ultraman was funny. But it's just like funny in that like it was wearing its references on its sleeves so much. Although to be fair, he looked a little bit more like Gridman than Ultraman, but you get my point. Tokusatsu, giant stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much. So speaking of that, the split personality thing, yeah, it was. I think it worked out. That also worked out pretty well in the end. Again, this is a horror Monster of the Week series. Don't expect a lot of plot until like the last 10 episodes, because you're just not going to get it. You'll get like recurring elements, you'll get like recurring characters and stuff, but you're not going to get plot until you'll only get like super brief instances of plot until like the last 10 episodes. Because like up until like honestly, I think this might have my favorite ending to a Digimon TV series, which is not a high bar, to be honest. Like, I thought the last arc of 01 was kind of disappointing. That the last arc of like App Monsters was fucking awful. I just pushed through that just to make the ANN video. The last arc of the last like 2 movies of Try were just straight up fucking abysmal. So I guess by comparison, an ending that's just fine, that's good, but still has some problems to it, makes it the best ending, I guess. I don't know. I do also wish, like, my other big problem with this series it's not a big problem, but it is a problem, is that all of the characters are, like, super static. They don't, like, change at all, except you could argue, like, the Gamamon, Gulus Gamamon thing, learning to control your inner demons, I guess. That changes. And that, like, I thought there would be some, I thought we were going to get some, like, big change moments, especially, like, in the first arc. Like, I think it's episode 13. Like, we see a Digimon die. And then Gamamon goes beast mode. And Gulus Gamamon comes out. But, like, no one really changes in this series. And they're all fine characters. Like, they're good characters. I like Hero as, like, the standard, like, help everybody out leader type. Rudy was nice. Rudy was nice as the very strong-headed, very take charge kind of girl character, and then Kyoshiro being the fucking babbling crybaby weirdo. um, I do like that the cast was fairly small for this. Could have used maybe a couple more characters, but I think the chemistry between our three lead human characters was really strong, and the chemistry with their Digimon counterparts was really strong. Angoramon being this big protector type, and Jellymon being basically Lum from Urusei Yatsura. And of course Gamamon was really fun too, as this basically like little brother Digimon, basically the little brother to Hiro. I really like their dynamic. Also, Gamamon is voiced by Miyuki Sawashiro, so stellar performance in that realm. Yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about this one. It's a fun show. Would I rewatch the whole thing? Probably not. I would probably like rewatch select episodes of it. But yeah, had a fun time with this one. I think I still like the original adventure more overall, but the horror themed elements of this stuff are just too good to pass up. So yeah, if you're looking to jump into Digimon, try this one out. It's not going to be like everything else, but it's going to be interesting.
Alright, Digimon Ghost Game is complete. We're going to slide you in the 13th slot, actually just above Digimon 02 The Beginning. I actually liked Ghost Game more than that, with a light 7. That was a good show. Would recommend if you like episodic kids shows. So, we got 2 more randoms left. Let's see where we go with those. Just gonna roll a 1 or a 2. Let's see what we roll. It's a 1. So Giant Beasts of Ars. Again, I have no idea what this show is. So let's figure out what it do.
I don't understand how you make action boring. I don't. But I watched like 6-7 minutes of Giant Beasts of Ars, and it's just so unengaging. Like, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. Although the OP made me... The stuff that it showed me in the OP made me go, I have absolutely no interest in where this show is going. But what I saw on screen, like, there wasn't anything wrong with it, but it just wasn't meshing in a way that made it interesting. Like, the girl escaping while stealing food from the mess hall, that was a fun little detail. But aside from that, it's just... There's something about the way this show is paced, like scene to scene, the way it looks, just the general feel of it that's just bland and not like fun. Also, the opening scene is like takes place like 30 years before this series, and there's like no connection between that and the scene following the OP at all. So it was entirely pointless. And then this annoying child who talks like in cat puns just starts spouting exposition at the main girl, mostly unprompted. And so I was like, no, I don't need to sit through this. I just don't. I had fun with the show before this, and I'm not having fun anymore. So, let's try and have some more fun.
Alright, Giant Beasts of Ars is off the list. So there's only one random left. So we're gonna try out Technoroid Overmind. This is a mixed media project from Doga Kobo. Probably something idol related. Let's find out what it is.
Oh my god, there were so many, like, just weird, like, faults. Like, just weird, like, wrong data inputs, wrong, like, ideas put into this thing. I got, like, 4 minutes in. The designs suck. The character designs suck. They're all candy-colored weirdos. But, okay, so this takes place in, like, a post-climate change world where the sea levels are rising and the temperature's going up and up and up. So androids are, like, filling in the gaps of where humans, since apparently humans are just dying off by the shit ton. We can talk about whether the world would have the functional capacity to make androids in that scenario for hours on end. I want to talk about something else instead. So there's a shot of, like, a downtown city where there's just a bunch of people walking around, and you see on one of the the holographic billboards or whatever that the temperature is 43.8 degrees Celsius. So that's which is approximately 111 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's really high, and people are just walking around in that heat, no problem. But there's a second piece of data on that sign that says it's 78% humidity. Now, there's no indication that that first temperature is the real feel. So you have to take it at face value that that is just, like, the temperature. So, according to a heat index calculator, the real feel for 43.8 degrees Celsius at a 78% humidity is 104 degrees Celsius, which is 219 degrees Fahrenheit. And just on this calculator that I'm using, it says under that, extreme danger. At this condition, heat stroke is imminent. Which makes sense, since there was another little sign on that billboard that had, like, basically like a heat stroke warning. No one would be out walking in that. Unless all of those people were androids. In which case, why show that? So that happened. And then we cut to 4 robots living in this really nice house. Like, really nice modern house. All amenities and everything. And then their like AI assistant chimes in and is like, you haven't paid your electrical bill in over a year. What? My electricity gets cut off if I don't pay it for 2 months. And I'm on a 2-month cycle. That's not how that works. Maybe that's how it works in Japan. I doubt it. What the fuck? And also, the androids don't seem to think that that's a problem until the AI points out that they would have no way to recharge if the electricity gets cut off. What the fuck? Also, if they're all unemployed, how did they have the house in the first place? Fuck this show.
Alright, get this shit off the list. Okay, we are finally down to one show left from the winter 2023 season. That show is My Hero Academia, Season 6. This is gonna have the war arc and then the, what do you call it? I guess the vigilante arc. I am hyped. Let's go.
Man, after all the long gaps that I spend in between watching My Hero and reading My Hero, I tend to forget just how fucking good this show is. Just finished all of season 6 of My Hero Academia. This was another good one. Shocking. Kind of knew this was going to be a good one. This has the war arc in it, and I'm not sure what the official title for that arc is, but I call it like the vigilante arc, I guess, for Deku. And I am a huge My Hero fan. As I stated, I'm also read the manga. I am mostly caught up to the what do you call it? The English physical releases. So I've already read all of the material that this season covers. So basically this is just like a lot of my thoughts are going to be like how it is in comparison to the manga, but I mean I already kind of said it. It's fucking good, man. I just blazed through all of these episodes, like, for comparison, like, even though I liked Digimon Ghost Game, it took me 2 weeks to get through 67 episodes of that. It took me 4 days, I think, to get through 25 episodes of My Hero. Not even 4 days, 4 evenings, really. So this show is so gripping and enrapturing and just fast-paced, never a dull moment, just constantly going. Even when it like cuts away to like the B plot, it's still super engaging and interesting. Because My Hero has one of the strongest casts in all of Shonen, in my opinion. At least in terms of Shonen Jump. A lot of people will dispute that. I disagree with them. I think this has one of the most personality-wise diverse casts of characters, in terms of like thematic structure. One of the most, like, how each character relates to the different themes of the series. One of the most diverse and strongest in that regard. And just in terms of personality, they're just so fun to follow. Like, Class 1A is so fun. All of the heroes are so fun. And, like, we got pretty much everyone with a name got to have some kind of moment in this season. Whether it's all of the heroes, like registered heroes during the war arc, like all of Class 1A during the third to last episode, 1A versus Deku. All the villains got to have these big showcases during the war arc. This is good shonen. This is like just so traditionally good shonen, and I love it. And in terms of an adaptation, this was definitely stronger than I was expecting in some areas, and weaker than I was expecting in a few areas. Like, if I had to pick, I would say, like, in terms of just like perfection and like raw talent and like competency, I would say probably season 2 is the strongest season of My Hero. Artistically, I think season 4 is the strongest in terms of like imagery and color design and shot composition and all of that. Granted, a lot of that comes from really strong paneling in the manga, but it was translated to the scene, to the TV screen really well too. And I don't think that season 6 definitely is not the strongest cinematically, but man, it comes out fucking swinging. Or I shouldn't even say that it's not. It is strong cinematically. It's just not like evocative, I should say, in the ways that, like, a lot of the stuff from Season 4 was. Like, especially a lot of the stuff during the Overhaul arc. But it's still incredibly, like, well shot. Animation's almost always on point. Like, there's a little bit of jank here and there during, like, the not important shots. But yeah, I also just generally love how this show looks anyway, just the aesthetic of it, as this hodgepodge superhero mashup is so vibrant and exciting to look at. Occasionally the color design gets a little bit out of control, but generally it's pretty solid, especially with some of the more interesting, like, fight settings for this. Like those like really deep purple tones of the hospital underground during the opening fights of the series were really cool. The rainy scenes during Deku's vigilante-ness. It's not... I keep calling it vigilante, but it's not really that. Someone knows what the arc is called. I'm not going to stop the recording to look it up. But that part, just the dreariness of it and the intensity of the shadows and the lighting was really strong. And just in general, the Sakuga was just so fucking prevalent this season. So many good cuts. I don't think there was one in particular that was my favorite. But just in general, there was so much impressive animation this season. To complement the really strong adaptation of the story. All of the beats from the story I thought were handled really well. Twice's ultimate downfall was actually, I think, got more focus in the anime than it did in the manga, if I recall. And it really twists the knife just right to really lay it on thick. It sets up Toga's stuff that I know is coming in the manga. I haven't gotten there yet, but I know something is happening with her, and the way that she views her own goals in this world. Yeah. There were, like, some, like, minor, like, shot issues that I thought, like, some of the reveals during the war arc, I thought were a little, like, they had some, like, false starts, sort of. Like, the times where Best Genus and Lemillion come back, I felt like visually they had some, like, false starts that kind of, that if I didn't know they were coming, it would have, like, not ruined the surprise, but, like, it was kind of like a hiccup reveal almost. So I think those could have been a little better. But in general, just everything was really solid. Yeah, I'm just listing things that were good now. I'm not even describing what happened. But I mean, it's more My Hero. You probably already you watched this a year ago. It's December now. If you're watching this and you were, like, waiting on my thoughts to this, I'm just regurgitating probably what has already been said already. Except, I don't know how pervasive this idea has gotten, because I've actually muted My Hero on Twitter. I've just muted anything related to that. A, because I don't want spoilers from the manga, and B, more so, I just don't want to hear what anyone has to say about this series, because I never hear anyone talk about this series right. At least in terms of, like, big popular Twitter discussion. I never hear people talk about it. This is so pretentious of me. You're not talking about this series right. Well, listen. There is such a fundamental misunderstanding about what My Hero is trying to do. Like, it's It's not about like hard work versus talent. It's not about being able to do things that other people find easy. It's not about any of that base level shit that we got out of the way in season 1. That's not what My Hero's about. That's part of the story, but it's not what it's about. I'm eventually going to make a very, very big video about this once, probably when the manga finally ends, or when the anime finally ends. But My Hero Academia is about inheritance. It's about legacy. It's about the previous generations passing on their world to the next generation and influencing them in a way to make that world better. Or worse, if you're all for one. And I forgot that season 6 has a ton more examples of that in it. Like, we have, again, All for One refusing to pass on the world to the next generation by taking over Shigaraki's body. We have so much of this stuff with Endeavor and the Hawks and All Might, and their flaws and triumphs that have affected the generation below them, and whether or not they are able to make up for the faults that for the sins that they've committed. Like, I completely forgot that, like, All Might is kind of grouped in with this too. Like, he's not exempt from this. He still has a duty to watch over people and make sure that everything, like, goes smoothly. Endeavor is probably, like, the most obvious, like, complicated version of this, with how he treated Shoto, his relationship with Dabi / Toya. Oh, by the way, that reveal was really fucking good. I will say that. Even with, like, more minor characters, like with Hawks' parents, like how they passed on their world to him and how that influenced his worldview to a certain extent, and how Endeavor influenced his worldview. The combining of different past generation ideas and how they influence the next generation. That's what My Hero is about. That's what it's always been about. That's why it's a series about All Might passing on his power to Midoriya. That's what it's always been about. So I'm going to make a much, 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 much longer video about that in the future. But if you really want, like, proof of what I'm talking about, go rewatch season 4, because it is everywhere in season 4. Everywhere. What else do I guess the last thing I could talk about with this one is, because season 6 in particular is by far the most political of the seasons so far, which is very much a natural, like, byproduct of where the series was going. It was impossible from the start for My Hero to ever avoid politics, just because of what the series is about. It's about a group of regulated heroes paid by the government to protect law and order. So the question is, and I kind of answered this when I read the manga, but I think I'm a little less certain of it now, is My Hero Academia propaganda? And the answer is, I'm leaning towards no, but I'm not totally certain in my argument for that, because there is it gets very messy in that regard. It is, on the one hand, it still, like, glorifies the heroes as, like, these are the only people who can save us, we need to put all of our trust in them, despite the fact that they have the system fell apart because of them, because of the actions of selfish heroes like Endeavor, and because of the mistakes of heroes like Hawks. But again, it also draws attention to that this system is very flawed, that the system has always been very flawed. The fact that... What was I going to say? The fact that a lot of heroes quit because they aren't getting the respect of the public. Yeah, that parallels law enforcement to a certain extent. The only difference is cops wouldn't quit because people hate them because they get paid too much. But yeah, it's a very... I'm gonna have to like rewatch this a few more times to get the details right, but I think it lands in a very centrist position on the matter of, yes, there are flaws in this system because of how individuals work within that system. I don't know if it is fundamentally... I don't think it's fundamentally condemning the hero system. In the way that, like, Hero Killer Stain is. By the way, he had some really good moments in this one. In this season. Especially, like, at the end here. In the final episode. So, yeah, I think My Hero comes away with kind of a centrist position on that of, hey... We need to be a little more safe, put some more safeguards in place to make sure that this shit doesn't happen again. I also think the anime in particular, in comparison to the manga, I think goes a little more, rails a little harder against, like, the people and, like, the mob mentality that pops up. I think, like, the anime in particular, I think, was a little harsher on people who are genuinely scared for their lives and want the heroes to fix things, because it's kind of, a lot of it is their fault in the first place. Again, it takes a complicated stance that I don't think is perfect, especially as I personally drift farther and farther left. It's hard to deny that there are some not authoritarian leanings, but like system good leanings in My Hero. So that's something that I will probably reckon with another time. But as a closing thought, holy shit, Yuki Hayashi is still one of the best composers in the game right now. Hot damn. There's some new tracks for this one that are just so fucking good. And the placement of, like, the classic tracks like You Say Run and, I think it's Might 1, I think. The track that plays, the insert song that plays during the overhaul arc in season 1 or season 4. They kind of reversed the, like, emotional meaning of that song in this season, and that was really surprising and really cool. But yeah, My Hero Academia is still good. Can't wait for season 7, which is apparently in like 3 months. Hyped for that.
Alright, My Hero Season 6 is done. And we're going to scroll all the way up here. And My Hero gets the number 2 spot for the year so far with a light 9. I wasn't sure if this was going to get a strong 8 or a light 9. But man, that shit was good. My Hero is so good. So that wraps up the winter season for the year. for the 2023 winter season. Here's what my list currently looks like. How many did I finish? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I finished 16 anime from the winter 2023 season. 2 of them were movies, 1 was an OVA, but otherwise, I think all of them were, 3 movies and an OVA. So, 12 series I finished. And then these other ones are like all the other movies and stuff that I've seen from the year. So, that's it for the winter season, which means that it's time to roll into the spring season. We got a bunch of shows for that. So, I'm going to hop into that soon. So until next time. Fuck, I had fucked up the outro. Oh well.